The next one is also very exciting. This is a Mardu Sedgemoor Witch deck, and I've kind of been holding off on playing the Red Black X Sedgemoor Witch decks until today, right? Because we got a dono for them. This is from Eyes Twitch. J News, thank you for your Twitch Prime. Appreciate ya. I think Aghanim Awakening is a trap in zombies, since like your deck is like you have a lot of things that deal you damage already, and it's very rare that you actually cast the Awakening half, but you could maybe play one. A lot of cool choices here. 4 copies of Village Rites to go with Young Pyromancer and Sedgemoor Witch. Very cool. You also have Lingering Souls, Seasoned Pyromancer. This card is very interesting to me. Extus, Oriq, Overlord. I think both sides of this card are fine, and neither of them are super exciting. But obviously that flexibility of having both sides be reasonable options is why MDFCs are strong. One card I'm not super sure on is the Smiting Helix. You only have 4 discard outlets for them. Where like Lingering Souls is like decent to cast the front half of. Smiting Helix is like kind of sketchy, but it's a pretty good card if you get to discard it to Spyro. I changed the sideboard a lot. The sideboard felt really unfocused to me. But I was also told by Eyes that I could change the sideboard. No Plum the Forbidden. No, I think that Plum the Forbidden is worse than Village Rites Queller, but I know that's what you wanted to test in your John Decklist, but you could have had me play that instead, or you could have me play it next week, maybe. Well, we have a functional hand, so let's keep. The floor as it replaces itself. I mean, the floor is that you discard a card, draw a card for 2 mana. That's a really low floor. It's different from cycling. This is gonna be a fun match. Opponent with very good taste, by the way. Love the Castle Locthwain in this deck too. You know, one thing I should say is like Sedgemoor Witch is I think a modern playable card, but it's not like it's such a strong card that you could just afford to play. It doesn't make up for the card quality of a card like Plum, you know. It just I think the key to making like playable modern cards that like don't have a great home, the key to making those kind of cards good is to find this is scary, other good powerful cards that synergize with it. So imagine we're gonna lose this Fatal Push. If they play a creature, we could maybe Smiting Helix it though. Few too many Village Rites. We get to Castle Locthwain and only lose 5 life to draw a card. It's not too bad at all. Magic Esports account is really tweeting through it. Anything interesting since the last time we saw? Plum does like elude away Helix though. Opponent also without a creature. Weird game. Maybe I should have done this last turn. Weird game. They have Kaya's Guile? Oh no. So good against the to exile the Smiting Helix too. Oh sorry, it's not the discard one. Yeah, Batter Skull. Yeah, Village Rites looking very strong here. Maybe 4 too many. Rough game 1, let's bounce back for games 2 and 3. Let's begin the Unearth. Kaya's Gals are probably solid. Kaya herself is probably good. What don't we want? Vanishing Verse misses Scholar, doesn't hit equipment, it does hit Liliana though. I want to cut these Thoughtseizes. Mono Purple Tempo, 2 months, welcome back, good username. Cut the Helixes. Cut the 4th Village Rites. Maybe it's something we're just gonna do all day today. So pro play is dead next year. Well, yes and no. It's like they're going to have GPs, or sorry, they've said they don't really know exactly what they're doing yet, but they said that they're still going to have like GP level events, PT level events, but they're not going to be supporting. It seems like there's probably not going to be a system like the pro point system, or a system like the MPL next year, which is weird. And jeez, I'm not sure exactly how I feel about it. Because I mean, obviously, I would like for there to be a system like that, but also systems like that have just not really been super sustainable in Magic's history. Like even like gold level pros in the old pro point system, you couldn't live off of being a gold level pro. Like platinum pros maybe, but you weren't living very good probably, because it's just so expensive to keep grinding and going through these tournaments. Oh my gosh, the finding a balance between these two systems, very difficult, I think. But it's not like the tournaments are going away. It's also not like they've actually committed to doing away. Like they said in their article that they have not made a plan, They said in their article that they have not made a plan for what the new system is going to look like, if there's going to be a new system. I often think this is the main reason it's not called a pro tour anymore. I think that you're right about that. I think that was probably like I agree, that was probably the deciding factor last time when they made the change. It's like they didn't want Magic to be something you could just play and survive off your tournament winnings, and not very many games can do that. It's like poker and chess if you're really very good, but it's just not a very common thing for games, unfortunately. They never have a plan besides milking money. I mean, they are a company, you know what I mean, but also, like, to be critical of Wizards for not having a plan at this point, also I don't think is very fair, because we don't know what we don't know what life is going to be like in a year. We don't know what how COVID is going to affect the world, in the aftermath. Let's take the Kaya's Guile. And so Wizards can't make a plan yet. And I think it's like a little unfair to be critical of them not having a plan, because it's impossible to make a plan right now. You could be critical of the MPL. You could be critical of them doing away with the Pro Tour system, if they're going to commit to that. But to say Wizards doesn't have a plan, they just want to milk money, it feels disingenuous. I don't know. When we spend $150 on tournament entry, if that money actually went to the winners instead of Wizards, scam artists. I mean, nobody's gonna pay $150 to go to a GP. I wouldn't do it. But also, I mean, just like the spiciest take ever to just call a business a scam artist, right? Like any business that any action that Wizards take is obviously going to be to make money, right? And that doesn't mean they're beyond criticism. There's lots of things I'm critical of them of, but like, it's unrealistic to expect Wizards to ever make decisions that doesn't make them a profit. We're not swinging at Lily with Flyer. I should have. I'm honestly just mostly talking about I should be focused more on the match, but this is obviously something that needs to be talked about too. There's money in Magic and people will play. But they also have said that they're not doing away with paper tournaments, and they have said that they've tweeted out to kind of clarify that they intend for there still to be like the GP feed into like Players Tour, Pro Tours model, just not, they don't want to have like a pro points MPL system, which I don't like. You know, I wish that there was something there. But also it's certainly true that that system has never really been very sustainable. Like there's never really been a good system. I think we have to take this minus on the germ, block here minus on the germ, and top deck some Seasoned Pyromancers or Kroxa. Yeah, and I do think like the opening things back up to like the LGS level is really important, because the MPL system was so incredibly unobtainable for anybody that was trying to get into it. It was like such like just an unrealistic thing to start grinding tournament Magic and become an MPL member. Especially when you contrast it with the old Pro Tour system. It's also true that like Wizards is like talking about like this year they're not really going to be making a lot of decisions, trying to see what the climate is like, trying to see what the world is like, and that they haven't committed to not having a system necessarily. You know what I mean? They did. It seems like they did tell the MPL members that there's not going to be, you know, MPL Pro Tour system. But that doesn't mean that without like criticism and feedback that they're just never going to listen to anybody and they're never going to have a system like that again. You know, because in their official statement they didn't commit to not having a system like that, and they're just currently thinking that that's not going to be the case. You know what I mean? Like they've got a lot of time to formulate a good solution with everybody's feedback and evaluate the climate, evaluate what people want. And I honestly feel like that was, I hope I should say that was their intention with this announcement. And I hope that that happens. And if it doesn't happen, then, you know, we can be critical of them more so at that point. Don't really have an attack here. Let's see what they discard. It is disappointing to see that pros tweeting that they were told not to think of Magic as their job anymore. Yeah, I agree. It's like I am really sad for all of the people in the MPL. But I mean it's also good that like Wizards isn't giving them this vague, ambiguous announcement and then in 2 years just completely drop these people, you know. I'm also, of course, you know, there's a lot of information to process, and I'm just talking off the cuff. So, I don't know. My opinions on this could change on a dime. I'm just reacting to this live, and I haven't completely digested the news either. Trying to play Magic and think. I don't have all the info. I'm not currently scrolling on Twitter. Can you break down how the MPO worked? I mean, it was really, really... Like, honestly, no, I can't because of how complicated it was. Right? It was... I actually don't think that I can. It was not a very good system, I think. Most people were very critical of it. Including myself, and just wasn't great. Weird hand. I think I'll put back the Village Rites. I want to keep the Helix to discard to Spyro. Yeah, GG's an RG. Seemed like you're probably a little favored in that matchup too. I wish Wizards would stick to a system. I mean, me too, but it's really difficult to be super critical of Wizards right now with COVID being around. You know what I mean? I think it's very unrealistic to like expect Wizards to have a hammered out system right now. And like you can be critical of the systems they put in place, but it is also good that they're willing to change, you know, even if the change is super slow. That's also something to note, that even though it took like 3 years of criticism, and I think the change to a different system has been way too slow. I'm not going to play the Spyro into a Helix here. Even though their change here has been way too slow, they are showing a willingness to like adapt after the MPL has been a pretty big failure in my view. Yeah, Helix definitely very good in this matchup. Not sure why they changed the old system. It seemed fine. The old system was fine, but I mean, there's a big difference between a system being fine and a system being good. I'm actually gonna want to just hardcast the Smiting Helix next turn. I could play the Spyro. It gets Searing Blaze, but that also means they're not spending their turn putting Lurrus in their hand, which is a pretty big cost for us, or hard for us. Personally, I think it's extremely easy to be critical of anything. I mean, that's everybody, right? I don't know. That also feels like that wants to be the gut reaction of everybody, is just immediately rip apart any of the Wizards' decisions, and then that's also because everybody cares so much and they've made a lot of bad decisions the last couple of years, for sure. They've made a lot of bad decisions the last couple of years. They're not putting Lurrus in their hand, but I think it's important, you know, when in announcements like these, to like just spend some time digesting the information, you know, dissect it, provide feedback potentially, and just try to be, you know, as reasonable as you can. I don't think I could afford to play around Skullcrack. I think I just need to Smiting Helix them. Are you implying they didn't test Oko enough? I'm not implying it. You know, obviously they didn't test Oko enough. Oko, Hogak, you know, lots of mistakes. Isn't the solution just to make the prize payout on tournaments spread out to lower, but still consistent finishes? Pretty hard to top 8 consistently. I mean, I don't know that that's the solution. I don't think that there's like nothing to what you're saying, but oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I'll play the Randy clip. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, if you want to support pro play, like, having a top-heavy payout is probably better. Where's the Randy clip? Oh my god! Oh no, I waited so long to cast it. My opponent's, like, thinking I'm BMing. Smiting Helix is pretty nuts, though. We could still lose, actually. But I think they're pretty flooded. They put Lurrus in their hand. So maybe I need to save the Smiting Helix for Lurrus. Why does pro player even matter, TBH? I don't know. At one point I would have had an answer for you. You know, like, this is they failed to find. You know, at one point you know, it's probably good to mention my history, right, as a... Oh, no. Damn it. It's probably good to mention my history as a competitive player at this point. You know, for a long time, I was a RPTQ, PPTQ grinder. I would play GPs in my area when they came, but I wasn't... you know, in a financial position where I could just travel across the country every weekend and play a tournament. But I played the ones I could, and I had a moment where I had qualified for a PT, and I had 13 pro points, and I was 2 pro points away from becoming a silver player. That, if I had... And then I had 9 months to get those pro points from a GP. If I got those, that was another PT invite, and if I had a good finish there, I had a really, really reasonable chance of making gold. And I was really excited to do that, and then they announced that they were doing away with the pro point system, and I remember being just so devastated that my dream of making it as a pro Magic player was over. And then I took like a kind of an extended break from competitive play, and I picked up streaming, and now I'm in a very different position, or my interests in Magic are different now than they were back then. Canister, thank you for the raid. You're having a good day today, dude. Can I get some faithless lootings in chat? Double Inquisition pretty good against Burn. So is Kai's Guile. Yeah, but you know, I certainly feel like I've been disillusioned for a long time about pro play, about competitive play. I think we take the Skull Crack. I'm not 100% sure that that's better than taking the Swift Spear, but we have the push. A lot of times, like in these kind of matchups, you'll like just have dead removal spells because they don't draw enough creatures. So we go Inquisition, Swamp, Fatal Push. Next turn, play Young Pyromancer. Maybe it's just better to push and not Inquisition this turn and play the Triumph tapped. To play around top deck Boros Charm. Impienso canceled. Yeah, yes, a good day. It's okay if you don't want to talk about Canister, but I am curious to hear your thoughts on things. But I also imagine you probably need like a little while to process. A lot of news coming through. I'm also really not sure how I feel about the whole announcement and everything. I've just kind of been rambling for a bit. Young Pyromancer on top. Do you play around top deck Skullcrack? Or do we try to get a trigger off Goblin Guide? I think it's probably better to get the trigger off the guide. Good draw. Yeah, there's a big announcement out. The general gist is that they're doing away with the MPL next year, right? Or is it the year after next? It's all getting globbed in my brain. But they're doing away with the MPL at some point. Oh my gosh. Oh wait, Smiting Helix, they could just activate the Vortex. I mean, I think we still just cast it at them, of course. And then they in their official announcement, they spent a long time talking about how they don't know exactly what the organized play or paper play or just play in general is going to look like, mostly because of COVID, of course. And they're thinking about it, they're working on it, but they're like their stated goal has been to get Magic back to the Gathering, right? And beyond that, we don't really know anything besides that the MPL members were told in an email. A lot of them tweeted that that they were told that they're going to be doing away with any kind of pro tour MPL system. Like, you can't really expect to be a pro player anymore and just like survive and make your living based on just playing the game. That being said, like, I think their mission statement of getting back to we don't die to Boros Charm because they have Double Canyon. Their state. Oh wait, what? If they go to 0, this still goes on the stack. That's kind of cool. The pros don't exist before the MPL. They did, but they're saying that they're going to not have a system like the. I guess what these Vanishing Verses. They're saying that they're not going to have a system like the old pro point system, and it seems like, from what I've gathered, from what people have told me in chat, and I might not have this right, while they haven't made a decision, because who can decide what your paper tournament Magic is going to play while we're still at the end of a pandemic, that they are still planning on having GP type events, PT events that are fed into by GPs and PTQs, but they're just not going to have like a pro point system, and they're not going to have an MPL system. And I would prefer it if there was one, but it's not like they're deleting tournaments, and they are going to make things more focused on, like, you know, the LGS level, on the people, on the community. And I think, like, if that is going to be what happens, if that is going to be true, then that's a good thing. I actually think I want this Unearth over like the Village Rites. But of course they haven't actually like made an announcement. So while like that announcement sounds nice, we don't actually know what it's going to be. And I know I've just been rambling and ranting about this for a while, but of course it's also the conversation on everybody's mind. So I'm just streaming my thoughts. What time is the announcement? The announcement's already been made, but the announcement is that they're doing away with the NPL system and that they are going to like kind of start from the beginning and make changes. And, you know, I know there's like so many people that are just so critical of Wizards when they make these kind of decisions, but I also feel like their decisions that they make seem like they're heavily influenced by the criticism that they receive. Like, the NPL has been wildly criticized, and I think I really am highly critical of the NPL too. The system has been criticized from day one, and it took them a long time to change it, but I think they've known that it's not working for a long time, and then COVID hit, and it didn't make a lot of sense for them to change things too much during the pandemic. But, you know, now that, like, you know, the light's at the end of the tunnel, Paper Magic is going to come back soon, in theory at least. I mean, it makes sense for them to make an announcement now. Yeah, I also kind of I stopped being very invested in the pro scene after the MPL, and I was very invested in before. I already told the story like 10 minutes ago, but I think I told it before Canister's raid, so I'll just briefly go over it again. Like, my history as a player, so I was, you know, just a paper grinder. There was a point where I had a good run at a pro tour. I had 13 pro points, and I was going to keep this on the draw against Burn. I had 13 pro points, and so I had 9 months to get 2 pro points from a GP, and that would have made me silver, and that would have been another PT invite. And if I had a good run at that PT as well, I had a really good chance of I'll just play this tapped, actually. Although it's so bad if they have Eidolon. Yeah. I had a really good chance of they have double Rolling Vortex? That's so bad for us. Although we did put in a lot of answers to it in our deck. Guess I'll just take one. I had a really good chance of making gold, and then that would have been a huge deal for me. And then, like, right after I was in that position, they announced that they were doing away with the pro point system, and they were going to introduce something else, and that something else ended up being the MPL. I think I'm just going to get a Triome here. And I was really upset by that for a long time, and eventually that they didn't cast the Skewer. Eventually I started streaming as a way to, like, if I was going to still be invested in the game, that investment was going to be in the form of streaming. I think so. Interesting draw, right? So we know they have Searing Blaze in their hand and Skewer this Critics as their last 2 cards. So I think my opponent's going to sack their Sunbaked Canyon, so I'm going to, in response to that, gain 4, make them sack a creature. And if they don't, we'll Rolling Vortex or Vanishing Verse the Vortex and then Kaya's Guile. This is bad though. The second creature. It's also true that while this is Wizards' announcement, like, a lot of people have also been more invested in the SCG Tour than the GP Pro Tour scene for a long time, and that's never been me. I've always been more invested in the Pro Tour scene, but I was also always more invested in it because there was, like, the Pro Tour. You know, that's why I was invested in it. Like, the idea of it was very cool to me. And since that dream has been dead for so long, you know, it's been dead for so long for me. I don't know. I have a hard time thinking about what the game is going to look like after now. So if we play a creature, they have Searing Blaze as their last card. So I think that what I need to do here is dig for a copy of Kaya's Guile If I miss, I can Vanishing Verse the Swift Spear. We have 2 more Kai's Guile on the deck. Another. It is a gold card. Orzhov gold card. What would be my idea of the best version of an MTG competitive scene? I mean, I'm probably not the person to ask. You know, I'm not someone who has a degree in something that would be relevant for this. You know what I mean? Oof, rough stuff, you know. I know that's not what the chat wants. The chat wants a hot, spicy take. Wizards is destroying the game. They hate the game. They hate Magic the Gathering. Everybody at Wizards hates Magic the Gathering, and they're plotting and conspiring to ruin your favorite format and then make you just play Arena constantly all the time. But the reality is, like, so many people at Wizards, and I would say that the majority of people you see on, like, social media, that like run the accounts and stuff, so many of them are people who love Magic the Gathering more than anything else and have, you know, abandoned other careers and pursued a career making the game, creating the game, and just because they love it so much. And I would say that is most of the people that work at Wizards love the game as much as you do, if not even more. And I think that most of the decisions that I've been the most critical of, the decisions that I have felt have been the most out of touch by Wizards, have been made, it seems, by like corporate executives who don't know the game. And it's like the other side of things is how it's always felt to me, is that there are decisions made at the corporate level and there are decisions made by people who are actually running the game. And the company, it's a big company. It's a big $1 billion company. And so it makes sense that sometimes like the messaging is divided, but again, that's always kind of been my opinion of it. I think we play a Sedgemoor Witch, right? The audio was quiet. I guess I can move my mic closer, but I haven't really changed too much. It might be my voice, honestly. I feel very dehydrated right now. I've just been too focused on talking to get any water. But it also I just see all the time people like taking out their nerd rage on Wizards, and the people that they're taking it out on are like the play design team and the people who have like just who actually like keep the ship going, the crew, not the captain, and people who just love Magic more than anything else in the whole world and just want the game and community to be good. And it always just breaks my heart when I feel people, you know, directing their nerd rage at that side of the company rather than like the executives who have made the out of touch decisions, you know, the executives who just like know that esports are popular, know that they run a game, which just make this esports, you know. Retail 11 months, Dono Day is the best day. I always have fun on Dono Deck Thursday. Also brutal to run into this deck in the O2 bracket, by the way. Martin uses status. Yeah, I'm interested to see what other people are saying, because again, I'm just talking off the cuff. I'm just still digesting things, and my opinion is probably going to change. Right, Martin Yuza, who I like a lot. I've played against Martin at a PT Pro Tour, when it was actually a Pro Tour. It's insane to me that Magic is thriving and having record sales after existing for 27 years, despite the organized play team's best efforts to kill it. Year after year, they change every system, making it incomprehensible, rename everything to the point where... Continued. Even the people playing in these tournaments have no idea what they're actually playing or how the structure works. They managed to kill the Pro Tour along with the Pro Tour dream for the everyday Magic player, the Hall of Fame, play the game, see the world, everything. Year after year, they make decisions that leave everyone completely baffled, alienating the player base, disregarding all feedback. I don't understand how completely killing Pro Magic can be the right call, but whatever. I hope your extra secret layer money is worth it, Watsy. For the record, I don't think the MPL is the way to go either, but that's not just bring back the Pro Tour, but why not just bring back the Pro Tour that everyone loved? The system was good, clear, and easy to understand, and the brand was strong. I started as a Magic fan, glued to the coverage every weekend, refreshing the standings. to see how my heroes were doing. Is Kai gonna win another Pro Tour? How are the Czech guys doing? Wow, one of them top 8'd. Maybe I can make it to the PT2 one day. Opening a pro player card in the starter was a high point of any sealed, further selling me on the PT dream. Not sure what COVID numbers they're working with, but in my opinion, they are vastly underestimating the amount of people that buy packs and cards to build decks because of the dream to play on the PT one day, meet LSV, win 50k, maybe get on the train, etc. I guess the only way to find out is how many of them they just lost. We'll be able to check the numbers in a few years. Too bad I won't be around to see that. Really heartbreaking to see someone like Martin say things like that, and I'm so sure so many people are in a similar spot. I agree with most of the things he says here. That it would be way better to have a pro system. That's something that most people want. I agree with that aspect of what he's saying. I think the only thing I disagree with what Martin's saying is that Wizards is not receptive to feedback. I think that they're not, like, honestly, I think that a lot of feedback they get is like very muddy, and I guess we don't want to overcommit into Sweeper here. I think a lot of feedback they get is a bit muddy and unfocused, and I honestly think like them getting rid of the MPL now is like reactionary to how critical people have been of it. That being said, they don't know what they want to do instead, and that's kind of their issue, right? Is that they're very reactionary to feedback, but they don't know exactly. They just don't have like a good focused plan. Is honestly my hot take, I guess. But I see them being. I mean, that's just kind of like a small nitpicky thing. Is Sedgemoor better than Mentor if you're already playing white? Yeah, I think so. Just like the Ward 3 is a really big game. I don't get dissolving something without also announcing the plan going forward. I also disagree with that, right? Where it's like it's impossible. Wizards can't make a plan right now, you know? Like to make a plan right now it's very, very risky because we're still at the end of a pandemic, right? And so for them to make a plan that's based around organized paper play where thousands of people meet in an inside room and nobody washes their hands, it's just not something that they can announce right now. But they know that they're going to be able to announce it soon. And so I think it makes sense for them to express their intentions to do away with the MPL, to focus on the lower level players. And I do hope that they're receptive to the feedback that aspect of their message here is good. Oh, dude, Omnath is like the card that makes Sedgemoor Witch better to have played, actually. They go up to 7. No, they're not dying. Damn it. That part of their messaging is good, I think. The part of their messaging that's bad is, of course, which was not in their announcement, right? It was not in their announcement that they want to do away with the pro system. This is something that was leaked by the MPL members, and rightfully so, I think. But I think it makes sense for Wizards to caution expectations for the MPL members, but I also don't think it's impossible that they could just listen to feedback and have some kind of Pro Tour system, you know? But they're just like talking about how they don't have a plan, and I think that's just something you need to realize, is that Wizards is a organization of thousands of people with different ideas, and not a single one of them is steering the ship, you know? There's an official tweet that also confirmed professional Magic isn't in their future plans. Yeah, I saw that, and you know, we've talked a bit about that, but also they've said that they intend to have like the GP, PT level events, like maybe they'll have Worlds or something, but what they won't have is like the Pro Points, Silver, Gold, Platinum level, and they won't have the MPL. And also like I think people are quick to forget that back in the old Pro Tour system, people, you know, while like the brand was good, the coverage was good, the play experience was good, people were wildly critical of that system. People were insanely critical of that system, and I was one of them. And people, I think, have rose-colored glasses when it comes to that environment. That people wanted change for a long time, and like people didn't like the old PTQ system, and they switched to the RPTQ, PPTQ system, and people didn't like that one either. And it's just all a bit muddy, you know. Thank you for your resubscription, Zom. I need to get some water soon. I'm so freaking dehydrated. Kilgore, I'm once again asking you to have PTQs. Yeah, me too, dude. Supporting high-end competition but not supporting professional gamers is fine. Both statements can be true. Most players don't want to pro dream just to high-end competition. Jeez. Could always go the chess route of ranking players. But then how do you pay them? I don't know. I don't have a solution. And in fact, it seems like most people don't have a solution. They just don't like the current system, which is always a big problem when it comes to criticism and feedback. When you have your entire competitive player base critical of you, and like with rightfully so, but you don't have like a lot of feedback that's, this is what we think the direction of organized play and everything should go. We don't have a lot of that. It's difficult for Wizards, I think, to find the right direction to go in, especially with the organizational structure that they have. This matchup seems really bad. Sorry, I haven't even commented on the game at all. Yeah, Omnath land 5-drop is always so disgusting. Although when the 5-drop is Verdict, it's not that bad. Alright, let's keep this. Need to draw land really badly. They brought on Sam Black as a contractor to consult and organize the play and just liquidated all of it. So Sam Black liquidated all of it. I mean, they also haven't liquidated all organized play. Like that is disingenuous as well. Right? Like they're doing away with the MPL PT idea, or like they're declaring their statement to do that. But they've also said that there's going to be like the GP into PT funnel, right? And that is organized play. So I do think it's disingenuous to say that that's their goal. How wasn't it Scape Shift? Well, for Scape Shift, your opponent needs to have 7 lands in play, and Wrenn and 6 would be how they get the 7 lands. But you would have chosen Scape Shift, and then your opponent would have top decked the second Wrenn and 6. But like Wrenn and 6 as it stood is going to be like 3-4 lands. It still probably is going to be that for them, which they need to get into play in order to win this game. 2 less reach creature sacked, so we can sack both elementals here. Maybe just better to Kroxa. Oh, man, the Dryad is actually such a problem, though. The Valakut. They can just kill my Kroxa. Eat Blood Avatar, kill Dryad. Let me reread this. Each opponent sacrifices a creature. Okay, I didn't recall the each opponent sacrifices a creature mode of this card. Yes, that saves us. Awaken the Blood Avatar. Yeah, I know the token has haste, but I'm like, it's a 3/6. They can block it with the Dryad, but yeah, this works. Yeah, they also take the 3 from the trigger. This card seems okay. Does it have Menace? It has Haste. I don't see Menace on the card. My favorite fight from Shippuden. It's Naruto versus Pain, and it's not a very popular one because all of it is so bad. But it's my favorite. They have another Dryad. This has been a really unfortunate game. Quibble with a Great Thread. For years, I haven't been involved. Sorry, let's play this game real quick. So they have Scape Shift in their hand. I think that we need to just find a Thoughtseize. This has been like the top of their library has been so good for them. We're dead. Sag. Okay. So I haven't been involved in competitive Magic for years now, but I felt compelled to comment on this since it was such a big part of my life for so long. I'm frankly not surprised to see the MPL being dissolved. While it was an exciting idea when it was announced, the fact is that its existence being cutting back massively on other organized play hurt interest in competitive Magic overall, and the league itself was implemented and produced so poorly that it was doomed to fail from the start. COVID obviously hurt competitive Magic overall, but it was more a matter of giving it time to bleed out from the self-inflicted wound that was the MPL. Yes, people are interested in watching top players compete, but they're also interested in the dream of competing against them, which in more open systems was a real possibility. The chance of watching their friends or being on camera themselves at a GP was a much bigger draw than seeing the same players compete in the same format week in, week out, pre-recorded and without player cams. Could not agree with that anymore. While the MPL itself was an unmitigated disaster, I don't think it's entirely to blame for Wizards' decision to move away from the pro Magic dream. Magic pros have been living on borrowed time for years. Remember, pay the pros? Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, there was a big pay the pros movement under the old Pro Tour system, and like the Pro Tour system was so much better than the MPL that I think that we as a community really look at it through rose-colored glasses, but there was a lot of problems with it, and everyone was critical of it constantly too, of course. If anything, the MPL was clearly intended to serve as marketing for MTG Arena. The league's poor performance juxtaposed with the game's success raised the question of how important pro play is anyways. Supporting playing Magic professionally as a career made a lot of sense when the game needed aspirational figures to encourage others to invest time and money into the game, but not only is Magic so ingrained as a lifestyle product now with celebrity fans like Post Malone or Mr. Beast or Hunter Pence, but MTG Arena and the streaming and content creation boom has facilitated and made more avenues for Magic stardom. Does it make sense for WotC to pay MPL members to compete when people like Crokies are promoting the game as much or more and making a living doing it without having to paying him a dime? Streamers and content creators helps obsolete the previous model of pros as necessary. I'm hopeful that this isn't the end of Dream for competitive Magic players, even if it is the end of WotC explicitly supporting the pro lifestyle. While my time as a Magic pro is long since past, I know there are a lot of people out there who love the game like I do, and who want to throw themselves into it and get rewarded like I once was. But being a Magic pro is likely to look difficult in the future and likely to be more about content creation and building a personal brand than about winning tournaments and getting that WotC paycheck. So I apologize, Eyes, for spending this entire league talking about the MPL stuff. A lot of wise words from Kibler there. I'm going to do the 0-3 drop here, unfortunately. I do think this deck has a lot of good ideas, but I think a few problems has like the tokens plan is not very does not seem to be a very good idea in the metagame is kind of my thinking on it, where the 1 toughness creatures specifically are really tough, and Young Pyromancer, sadly, just being a 2-mana 2/1 is not a very good spot to be in. Helix is a good card, but you need, I think, more discard outlets for it. I think Extus is also a little underpowered, but a card that I think is very cool. Forward Village Rites feels like a few too many. That being said, I do think like this deck could absolutely get some new cards, and this deck could also potentially like be better positioned if somehow 1 toughness creatures can make a comeback. I'll also say that I think maybe this deck should be playing some copies of Unearth and leaning more into like the 3-drops, which seem like your strongest cards. These are my thoughts on the deck, the archetype. Very cool, and I hope one day to see these kind of decks make a comeback again.